Today on the Asian News Review, we're going to be taking a look at Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi's new friendship with President Donald Trump, what this means for Japan, and the high-stakes gamble between the US and our friends in the East. Stay tuned to the Asian News Review to find out what's up. Could this be a new era for the land of the rising sun? Japan has just entered a new era and the stakes couldn't be higher. For decades, the world viewed Japanese politics as a slow-moving, predictable machine. But today, the headlines are screaming. We are looking at a geopolitical shift that could redefine the 21st century. At the center of this storm is Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi. She isn't just the first woman to lead the nation, she's inheriting a Japan that is being forced to choose between its oldest ally and its closest neighbours. A recent report from the Mainichi Shimbun newspaper has sent shockwaves through the Kantai and the Pentagon alike. We're talking about brewing conflicts that puts Japan in the ultimate no-win scenario. Today, we're breaking down the breaking news, the economic shadows, and the dangerous tightrope Takaichi is walking. There is possibly conflict on the horizon for Japan. According to the latest reports, the geopolitical temperature in the Indo-Pacific has hit a boiling point. The US is looking to its partners to solidify a front against regional aggression, and the pressure on Tokyo is immense. The story isn't just about diplomacy anymore. It's about military hardware and lines in the sand. Washington is calling for a more active Japanese self-defense force. They want more than just logistical support. They want a clear commitment. But here's the problem. Japan isn't just an island in the middle of nowhere. It is a neighbour to some of the most powerful and volatile military actors on the planet. For Takaichi, the news is a baptism by fire. The Mainichi reports highlight a growing demand for Japan to draw a line, to decide who is a friendly country and who is a neighbouring threat. But in the world of high finance and modern warfare, those lines are often blurred with blood and billions of dollars. Let's talk about the American friendship. This week, Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi met with US President Donald Trump for a sit-down and a friendly chat. While the aim of this was to draw closer economical and bilateral ties between the two countries, the reality is America finds itself gripped in conflict at the moment, which is affecting the economies of all global countries. Japan's current constitution was actually drafted after World War II by the American government of the time. It outlines specifically that Japan is not allowed to have an army used for aggressive acts against other nations. However, Japan is allowed to have a very small force which is used for self-defense purposes. Mostly they train and do joint drills with the American forces which are based down in Okinawa in the south of Japan. And since World War II, they haven't really had a need for an army or military. America has its largest base outside of the US stationed in Okinawa with more than 45,000 active service personnel. In this situation, they don't really need to have a larger military spending. Recently, though, there have been several signals from the President of the United States that they are ready for Japan to step up and take a more active role and rebuild their military. Now firmly in the ally column, it is seen as a prudent move for Japan to start footing some of the bill for the massive military force that they are partnered with. For Japan, the United States is more than an ally. It's the bedrock of its post-war identity. The economic ties are staggering, from semiconductor supply chains to the massive presence of Japanese tech in Silicon Valley. The two economies are surgically attached at the hip. But Japan's geography tells a different story. You can change your allies, but you can't change your neighbours. While the US provides the security umbrella, Japan's neighbours, China, South Korea and Russia, provide the literal neighborhood. Every time Japan leans too far toward Washington, the trade routes in East China Sea get a little tighter. Every time a Japanese destroyer joins a US carrier strike group, the economic retaliation from the mainland hits the Japanese worker right in the pocketbook. Sanae Takaichi has always been known as a hawk. She's a student of the late Shinzo Abe's School of Proactive Contribution to Peace. She wants a strong Japan. She wants a Japan that can say no. But as the Mainichi article illustrates, saying no to a neighbour is very different to saying yes to a distant superpower. Takaichi is facing a dilemma. If she commits military resources to this conflict now, she risks turning Japan into a permanent front line. She risks dragging the country into a conflict that could see Japanese soil targeted for the first time in 80 years. But if she stays silent, she risks alienating the only country that guarantees Japan's survival in a nuclear-armed neighbourhood. I want to pause here and look at the human element of this as well. When we watch these news cycles, it's easy to see Takaichi as a figurehead on a screen. But imagine the weight of that tightrope. On the one side, you have the American economic friendship. It's warm, it's profitable, it feels like home. It's trusted by everybody and known to everybody. But on the other side, you have the reality of being an island nation surrounded by countries that have very long memories and a very large army. If I was standing in her shoes, I'd be feeling the wind blowing from both directions. Takaichi needs to be incredibly careful here. One wrong step, one overly aggressive speech, and she isn't just defending Japan. She's inviting a storm that the country might not be ready to weather. We've already seen previous comments by the Prime Minister that have really blown some steam through China. And as a result, the retaliation on the economy was swift and quite strong. Flights were cancelled, business trips were postponed, and the Chinese government issued a warning that its citizens should not travel to Japan for tourism. The temptation is to jump in, of course, to show the world that the new Japan is here and ready to fight. But leadership isn't always about being the first one to charge. Sometimes leadership is about the prudent path. So what's the play here? A charm offensive? How do you survive when the two biggest kids in the playground are starting to throw punches? If Takaichi wants to secure Japan's future, she needs to master the art of dragging her heels. Think about it. She can continue the charm offensive on America. She can visit DC. She can talk about shared values, sign trade agreements, and take photos. She can keep the economic friendship glowing. But when it comes to the actual military resources and the actual boots on the ground or ships in the water, she needs to move with the speed of a glacier. By slowing down the military escalation, she buys Japan time. Time to see which way the wind is blowing, perhaps. Time to ensure that Japan isn't the only one drawing the lines that lead to the point of no return. I'm not saying at all that Japan shouldn't aid its allies and be part of the team that tries to restore global order. However, I am saying that we should be on sure footing before taking such important steps. You don't want to rush into a burning building if you're the one holding the only supply of water. You wait, you negotiate, and you protect your own house first. The golden rule of life saving has always been that make sure you don't become part of the problem. We also need to consider the fact that Sanae Takaichi is very early in her premiership, and this matters greatly. The first few months of a premiership define a leader's legacy. If Takaichi rushes into this conflict, she'll be remembered as a leader who ended Japan's long peace. But if she navigates these waters with a delay and dialogue strategy, she proves something else. She proves that Japan is a sovereign power that won't be bullied into a fight that isn't its own. The goal for Takaichi shouldn't be to pick a side. It should be to make Japan indispensable to both sides. It's about being the bridge, not the battleground. The news from the Mainichi article is a wake-up call. The world is getting smaller and the Pacific is becoming anything but peaceful. New conflicts kicking off around the world, and particularly the Middle East, are going to mean that Japan needs to negotiate very carefully. Sanae Takaichi is at the helm of a ship heading straight into a hurricane. The American friendship is vital, but so is the survival of the Japanese neighbourhood. The prudent way forward isn't through aggression, it's through careful, calculated protection of Japanese interests. She has to walk that tightrope, and she has to keep a cool head above all else. Because in the game of geopolitics, the winner isn't always the one who strikes first, it's the one who is still standing when the dust settles. So what do you guys think? If I'm wrong, let me know. I'm always open to new opinions. Is Takaichi right to be cautious? Or is it time for Japan to finally take a definitive stand? Let me know. The comments are below. Send me a message. And don't forget, like and subscribe for more deep dives into stories shaping our world. Hit that subscribe button. Tell them that you like it. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you and have a great day.